They say the deep web is a hidden world. Not the internet you use every day, but something buried far beneath. A place where secrets are traded and darkness spreads without light. Most people never see it. They laugh it off as rumor or a scary story told online. But for those who wander too far, the nightmares become real. Imagine stumbling upon a room where you were never meant to be, chatting with someone who should not know your name, or opening a package that should never have found its way to your door. What if the cries of a child echoed through your speakers and the signal traced back to your own home? What if the very pills you swallowed invited something into your life that you could never escape? These are not just stories. They are warnings, true accounts from those who strayed too deep. Tonight, we descend into the shadows. 5 tales, each more disturbing than the last. These are 5 true scary stories from the deep web.
Have you ever clicked on something online? Something you knew you shouldn't? A link with no description, no preview, just a title. Red Room Live. This story begins in the United States, in a college dorm room on the edge of campus. Ethan, a sophomore, was the kind of student who stayed up late with glowing screens as his only light. He loved horror stories, conspiracy theories, deep web mysteries, anything that could make him feel a chill at 3 in the morning. While his friends slept, Ethan scrolled through forums about things the government didn't want you to know. And that's when he found it. A post buried deep in a thread titled, "Don't click the Red Room stream." Most comments laughed it off. Urban legend, they said. But a few replies felt different, desperate. If the stream says your name, close your laptop, leave your room, don't look back. That night, thunder rolled across the sky. Rain hammered against the thin dorm window. Ethan sat hunched at his desk, hoodie up, headphones on, the glow of his laptop painting his tired eyes. And then, there it was, a plain black link, Red Room Live. He hesitated, biting his lip, then whispered to himself, "It's fake, just another dumb creepypasta." He clicked. At first, only static. A hum, low and uneasy. The screen flickered until shapes began to form. A room lit by a faint red glow. Cracked walls, peeling paint, stains that looked too dark to be water. In the center, a wooden chair, empty, waiting. Ethan leaned closer, whispering, "What is this?" Then, letters typed themselves across the bottom of the screen. "Welcome, Ethan." He froze, his breath caught in his throat. No webcam, no login, nothing should have told them his name. He laughed nervously, shaking his head. Okay, that's creepy, but must be some hacker thing. But then, the dorm lights flickered, once, twice, and his laptop's green webcam light blinked on. On screen, the chair was no longer empty. A hooded figure sat there, head down, face hidden in shadow. Static buzzed, louder now, filling Ethan's headphones. Ethan whispered, "This isn't real. It can't see me." But the figure twitched, a subtle jerk of the head, then another. Every flicker of static brought it closer, inches at a time, sitting, standing, breathing. The text returned, "Do not look behind you." Ethan's chest tightened. He forced himself not to turn, not to check the shadows stretching across his room. Instead, he slammed his laptop shut. Silence, darkness, relief. But then a faint glow leaked out from the closed laptop lid. A red light, pulsing, breathing. And the hum continued, rattling in his headphones, even though they were unplugged. Whispers layered under the static, voices overlapping, too many to count. Whisper, whisper, whisper. Sit, sit, sit. Panic clawed at him. He yanked the power cord, pulled the battery out. Nothing worked. The laptop throbbed with that unnatural red glow. Then he saw it, in the reflection of the dark window. Behind him, in the corner of the dorm room, a chair had appeared, identical to the one on screen, splintered, stained, waiting. Ethan spun around. The corner was empty, but when he looked back at the window, the reflection still showed the chair. Heart racing, he whispered, "This isn't real. This isn't real." He opened the laptop again, hands shaking. The hooded figure was gone. Instead, the camera now showed his dorm room, his desk, his bed, his door, live, in perfect detail. Except there was one thing wrong. In the middle of the room sat the chair. The text returned, "Sit and we'll end the stream." Every light bulb in his room exploded one by one. The laptop screamed with static. Ethan stumbled backward, but the shadows seemed to stretch, pulling him toward the chair. And then, cold wood pressed against the backs of his legs. Something whispered directly in his ear, "Welcome to the Red Room." The next morning, his roommate returned. The dorm was wide open. Rainwater soaked the carpet. Ethan was gone. On the desk, the laptop was still streaming. Viewers, 1. And on screen, Ethan sat in the chair, eyes blank, skin pale. His lips moved slowly, repeating a single phrase, "Welcome, viewer." They say if you ever find the Red Room stream, don't watch, don't listen, don't stay. Because once it says your name, the chair is already waiting for you.
They say some corners of the internet should never be visited. Hidden marketplaces whispered about in forums, full of things no one wants to see. Tonight, this story is about a man named Daniel and a marketplace that should have stayed invisible. Daniel lived alone in a small apartment on the outskirts of Seattle. The hum of his old air conditioner filled the room. The flickering neon sign outside painted stripes across the worn carpet. It was late, past midnight, and his only companion was the glow of his laptop screen. He sipped cold coffee, scrolling through forums, looking for anything unusual. He had explored dark corners of the web before, but tonight felt different. A new post appeared in a forgotten thread. "The Whispering Marketplace. Do not enter." Curiosity pricked at him. Against better judgment, he clicked. The page loaded slowly, a blank white screen first, then it changed. Rows of items appeared, strange, unlabeled, categories he didn't recognize. Then he heard it, a whisper. "Daniel." He jumped, looked around the silent apartment. "It's just headphones," he muttered. "It's probably part of the site." But the whisper returned, clearer this time. "We know you. We see you." Daniel leaned closer to the screen.
He scanned the listings, objects he didn't recognize, yet some seemed oddly familiar. A baseball cap, a watch, a book he remembered from childhood. His heart raced. Could this be a coincidence? "It can't be real. It's just the web messing with me," he whispered. Every listing had its own voice now, whispering secrets only Daniel would know. "You left your jacket on the bus. You still dream about her. Remember the attic? The locked box?" His stomach knotted, sweat ran down his temples. He tried to close the tab. Nothing happened. The whispers became louder, overlapping, maddening. "Daniel! Daniel! Daniel!" The marketplace updated. New categories appeared. Daniel's regrets, Daniel's fears, Daniel's mistakes. Each click revealed another personal memory. A torn photograph of his family, a notebook he had lost years ago, the broken keychain he always carried. Everything was cataloged, labeled, whispered back to him. He leaned back, shaking his head, trying to convince himself it was a trick. Then his apartment lights flickered. The air conditioner sputtered and died. A cold breeze ran across his neck, though all windows were closed. He tried unplugging the laptop, but it stayed alive. The screen glowed with a deep red tint. The whispers returned, now clearly coming from all around the room, not the speakers. "Look behind you." Daniel's mind raced. "I can't be losing it. It's just a sight. It's just a sight." But the shadows on his walls twisted unnaturally. He saw movement in the reflection of the screen. Someone was there, but when he spun around, nothing. The screen updated again. A live feed of his own apartment appeared. The camera showed his desk, his chair, and him, frozen, staring at the laptop. Then the feed zoomed behind him, his back to the camera, his hair moving as if someone was brushing past him. The whispers became commands. "Turn around, open the closet, sit." He bolted from his chair, trying to throw the laptop aside. The screen stayed alive. The whispers were now a chorus, mocking, laughing, speaking in dozens of voices simultaneously. "You belong here forever." He backed into the corner of the room, knocking over a lamp. The shadows stretched across the walls, forming shapes that resembled hands, faces, eyes, always watching. Finally, trembling, Daniel covered his face with his hands. The whispers grew louder inside his head than from any speaker. When he looked up, the screen showed his own terrified expression, but distorted, elongated, smiling in a way he never could. "Welcome, Daniel. You're ours now." The next morning, neighbors reported strange noises, but Daniel was gone. The apartment door was locked from the inside. Nothing had been disturbed, except a single laptop sitting on the desk. The screen glowed red. The marketplace was still open. A new listing appeared at the top, pulsing softly. "Daniel for sale." And if you listen closely, you can still hear the whispers waiting for the next visitor.
It was a quiet Friday night when Emily decided to clean her old apartment. Dust hung thick in the air, and boxes she hadn't touched in years were stacked along the walls like forgotten monuments. The soft hum of her heater was the only sound, occasionally interrupted by the drip of rain from the window above the sink. As she reached the back corner of her closet, her hand brushed against something cold and unfamiliar. Pulling it out, she realized it was a small, old webcam, dusty, scratched, entirely unfamiliar. She didn't remember owning it. Curiosity mixed with nostalgia and a faint unease crawled up her spine as she plugged it into her laptop. The screen flickered to life, but the feed was not of her apartment. It was darker, distorted, and faintly glowing. At first, the feed displayed static like old electronics occasionally do. Emily adjusted the camera, trying to focus on her familiar surroundings. But then she noticed it, a shadow in the corner of the room on the feed. It didn't move like a reflection should. Each time she turned to check, it shifted differently, defying physics. Her pulse quickened. "This has to be a glitch," she whispered, trying to calm herself. But deep down, she felt something was very wrong. A soft whisper emerged from the laptop speakers. "Emily." The voice was soft but chilling, intimate yet wrong. Her cat hissed and darted under the couch. Emily's hands trembled as she spun around. The room was empty. "Look behind you." Her throat went dry. Every rational explanation vanished. The webcam had no brand, no model she recognized. Nothing online referenced it. On her laptop, a hidden folder appeared labeled "Recorded." Inside were hours of footage, her apartment, during nights she didn't remember being awake. And in each video, a figure lingered in the background, featureless, always observing. Her heart pounded. She tried to tell herself it was a prank, some clever hacking, but the figure seemed too precise, too deliberate. Emily unplugged the webcam. The screen went black. Silence. Relief washed over her for a few seconds. Then the laptop powered back on. The feed reappeared. The figure was closer now, standing just at the edge of the frame. Shadows seemed to stretch unnaturally in her room. The whisperings returned. "Do not look away. Stay with us." Her breath came in short gasps. Every reflection on her mirrors now hinted at movement. Every corner seemed to pulse with a shadow she couldn't quite see. She backed away, knocking over a lamp. The crash echoed through the apartment, but the figure remained on the feed, unbothered, silently observing. Emily's thoughts spiraled. "It can't be real. I must be hallucinating. Sleep deprivation, stress. It's nothing." But the whispers grew more personal. They spoke of memories no one could know. The time she had stolen candy as a child, her secret crush from high school, the box she hid in the attic. Each whisper brought a chill. Each shadow seemed closer than the last. Her apartment, once familiar, felt alien, threatening. The webcam feed changed. It now showed her asleep, years ago, in her own bed. Memories replayed in the video, her childhood, her teenage years, moments she thought were private. The figure moved closer in the feed, not just in the frame, but appearing to reach out towards her laptop, towards her. Emily screamed and spun around. The room was empty, but the whispering was louder now, all around her. "You belong to us." The shadows on the walls seemed alive, stretching towards her. Every object moved slightly when she wasn't looking. A chair tipped, curtains swayed though the window was closed, books slid off shelves. Emily's attempts to destroy the laptop failed. The device seemed alive. The whispers now carried commands. "Turn around.
Look behind you. Open the closet." Emily backed into a corner, chest heaving. Panic consumed her. Every instinct screamed to run, yet she felt paralyzed. Suddenly, the room went dark. She thought the electricity had gone out. A single light flickered, the laptop screen glowing ominously red. On it, her own terrified expression, distorted, stretched, eyes staring into her soul. The figure now stood directly behind her image in the feed, reaching towards her reflection. Emily screamed, her body shaking, but she could not look away. "Join us," the chorus of voices commanded. The next morning, friends came to check on her. The apartment was empty, perfectly quiet, lights off. The laptop and webcam were gone. Only the faint hum of the heater remained, and a soft, distant whisper in the air, waiting for the next visitor. Somewhere, someone, or something was watching, and it knew everything about Emily.
It started with a sound, a faint scratching coming from the apartment next door. Laura had lived in her building for 3 years in a small, dimly lit unit. The apartment beside hers had always been empty, locked tight with a heavy wooden door. The landlord claimed renovations were ongoing, but every night, past midnight, the scratching began. Slow, deliberate, like someone tracing shapes into the walls. At first, she ignored it, but curiosity and unease built like a storm inside her chest. One Friday night, Laura pressed her ear against the wall. The scratching stopped. Silence. Then came a whisper, soft, intimate, and almost impossible. "Laura." She stumbled back, heart pounding, trembling. There was no one there. The air felt colder, heavier, as though the apartment itself was aware she was listening. Over the next few nights, the noises grew louder. Scratches, faint knocks, soft footsteps pacing, always behind the locked door. Occasionally, the whispers called her name, sometimes her childhood nickname, sometimes things she had never shared with anyone. Laura became obsessed. She asked neighbors, but no one gave her a straight answer. Rumors surfaced. A tenant had disappeared months ago. Others whispered that strange rituals had been performed in that apartment. Peering under the door one evening, the gap was narrow, but she could see a dark stain along the floorboards, streaked in a pattern she couldn't identify. A faint smell, metallic and damp, made her stomach turn. Her sleep suffered. Every noise in the building made her heart jump. Every shadow seemed to pulse. Alone in her apartment, Laura tried to ignore the sounds, but the scratching grew louder, closer. She could hear whispers weaving together, forming words, sentences, truths about her life she had never spoken aloud. "Do you remember hiding the key? The secret in the attic? The fear you never told anyone?" She shivered, covering her ears, but the whispers didn't stop. They seeped through the walls, beneath the floor, even into her own mind. The scratches shifted to her side of the wall. A chair toppled over, curtains moved, though the windows were shut. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the ceiling. Every time she reached for her phone to call someone, it rang with no one on the line, or worse, played the whispers back, repeating her own secrets.
She tried to leave the apartment. The hallway seemed to stretch impossibly long, doors twisting and bending, floors creaking under invisible weight. Each step echoed, and a soft, menacing scratching followed her. Laura began documenting everything: notes, sketches of the scratches, recordings of the whispers. But the more she documented, the more personal the phenomena became. The whispers began referencing her thoughts before she even spoke them aloud. "You're thinking of leaving. Don't. We are watching." Her nights became sleepless marathons of fear and obsession. Every corner of her apartment seemed alive. The walls whispered, the lights flickered in rhythm with her heartbeat, and the locked door pulsed like a heartbeat of its own. Neighbors started avoiding her. She tried telling someone, anyone, but describing the whispers, the scratches, the shadows made them uneasy. They called her paranoid. The scratching intensified. Now it sounded like claws scraping across the wood. Sometimes it seemed to form words. "Come here. Join us. It's safe." Laura tried to barricade her door. The noise penetrated anyway. She felt watched constantly. Every mirror reflected not just herself, but glimpses of the locked apartment's interior. Shadows moving inside, symbols etched on the walls. One night, the scratching stopped abruptly. Silence. She approached the door. It creaked open slowly, revealing darkness inside. Her pulse raced. The air was colder than the rest of the building, thick, metallic, heavy. Symbols covered the walls, drawn in dark, sticky lines. The smell of rust and decay hit her. She wanted to retreat, but something drew her forward, a compulsion she couldn't resist. From the shadows, a tall, featureless figure emerged. It didn't move normally, it glided. The whispers were louder, surrounding her, speaking in layered voices. "Laura, we have waited. You're ours." Every instinct screamed to run, but her legs wouldn't move. The figure reached toward her. Every shadow in her apartment stretched toward the door, following her. Laura backed away, tripping over boxes, knocking items to the floor. The lights flickered, plunging the room into darkness, then flashing on. The figure was always closer in each flash. Her phone rang again. The whispers played back, repeating the things she feared most: her regrets, her shame, her hidden desires. "We know your secrets. We always knew." Every breath was heavy, every heartbeat echoing in her ears. The figure advanced. Laura screamed, but the sound seemed absorbed by the walls. She was pressed into a corner, surrounded by shadows and whispers. The door slammed shut behind her. Symbols on the walls pulsed as if alive. The whispers became commands. "Stay, forever, belong." Laura felt herself being pulled into the darkness. Her screams were swallowed by the building itself. The next morning, neighbors reported unusual noises, but Laura was gone. The apartment beside hers remained locked. Months later, new tenants moved in. The whispers continued. At night, faint scratching could be heard, and if anyone pressed their ear to the wall, they would hear a soft, insistent voice calling their name, whispering secrets only they would know. The legend of the locked room grew, and the building waited patiently for the next person curious enough to listen.
It was 11:57 p.m. when Mark received the first text, a delivery notification he didn't remember ordering.
Your package will arrive at midnight." He laughed nervously. Maybe a prank, maybe a forgotten online order, but the tone, it felt almost knowing, directed at him personally. Outside, the streets were quiet, fog curling along the lampposts. His apartment felt colder than usual. At exactly midnight, a knock sounded at the door. Mark froze. He wasn't expecting anyone. Through the peephole, he saw a package on the mat. No delivery person, just the box. Ordinary, brown, taped shut. A slip of paper was attached. "Do not open until instructed." He hesitated. Curiosity warred with unease. Finally, he carried it inside. Inside the box was a smaller box, and inside that, another slip of paper. "Open this one at 12:10 a.m." He set the box on the table. The clock ticked slowly. Each tick amplified the silence in his apartment. At 12:10, he opened the box. Inside, a small camera, similar to a security webcam. Another note. "Set it up. Watch what happens." The whispers started almost immediately. Faint at first, barely audible over the hum of his refrigerator. He plugged in the camera. The screen showed his own apartment in real time. But something was off. Shadows and corners moved independently of light. Reflections and mirrors shifted slightly before he did. The whispers grew louder. "It was Mark. Watch. We are here." He tried to leave the room. The camera followed, the feed showing angles he couldn't possibly see. Every corner of the apartment seemed alive now, breathing with anticipation. Another slip appeared, seemingly from nowhere. "Open the third box at 12:30 a.m. Follow instructions precisely." Inside the third box, a tape recorder. He pressed play. His own voice spoke from it, but not his voice exactly. This was older, distorted. It described his day, his thoughts, his secrets. The whispers merged with the recorder. "You can't hide. We see you." Mark's pulse raced. Fear became obsession. Every box after that contained objects that seemed intimately personal, items from his past, a childhood toy, a high school yearbook, a torn letter he had never sent. The camera feed now showed another figure, tall, featureless, sometimes standing behind him, sometimes in corners of the room. Shadows stretched unnaturally. The clock seemed to slow. Every sound became amplified. The refrigerator hum, the wind outside, the scratches at the window. "This isn't real. It can't be. I must be losing my mind." But each whisper and box contradicted his reason. "Why do they know what I did, what I thought, what I hid?" His own apartment no longer felt safe. Every corner, every object, every reflection seemed to pulse with awareness. Lights flickered, objects moved slightly when he wasn't looking. The shadows shifted, multiplied. The camera recorded things happening in the room that he didn't see directly. Doors opening, footsteps pacing, a presence leaning close to him while he slept, whispering his name. He tried to leave the apartment. The front door refused to open. The locks clicked, jammed, then released, only to reveal an endless corridor outside that twisted impossibly. At 1:45 a.m., the last box arrived, larger than the others.
Inside, a full-length mirror, warped, framed in black. Another note. Look into it. You'll see what we want you to see. Mark's reflection was wrong, not fully his own. Shadows moved in the reflection independently. The figure from the camera now stepped fully into the mirrored world. Join us or be consumed. He screamed. The mirror's surface rippled like water. The whispers layered into a cacophony, repeating every secret, every shame, every fear he had buried. The figure advanced through the mirror. The room twisted around him, shadows stretching toward him. He tried to fight, to escape, but every movement pulled him deeper into the warped reflection. The whispers became commands. Look, obey, become part of the delivery. He reached out, desperately trying to close the mirror, but it was too late. The last thing he saw was his own terrified face, stretched, distorted, and the reflection stepping out into the real room. The next morning, the apartment was empty. No one knew where Mark had gone. Only the mirror remained, cracked slightly, reflecting an empty room. Except sometimes, if you stare long enough, you can see a shadow move in the corner. And if you receive a mysterious delivery at midnight with instructions you don't understand, be careful. Some packages are never meant to be opened. Whispers sometimes escape the apartment, soft and insistent.
The deep web is more than just a hidden corner of the internet. It's a mirror of the darkest parts of humanity. Maybe these stories were just rumors, or maybe they were warnings. Either way, the shadows of the deep web are always there, waiting for the curious to make one wrong click. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. And remember, some doors online should never be opened. Sweet dreams, if you can sleep. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. And remember, some doors online should never be opened. Sweet dreams, if you can sleep. Before you go, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more chilling stories, and share this video with a friend who loves horror. And if you've got your own terrifying experience, join our Discord community. The link is in the description, where you can submit your story, and maybe it'll be featured in our next video.